Lillard. You might have heard it earlier this week. He told Yahoo Sports that he would not return to play unless the schedule gave the Blazers a legitimate chance at competing for the postseason. That created a lot of conversation. Yesterday, Dame Lillard appeared on Jalen and Jacoby to clear it up.
I was just saying, we've been off for 2 months, and if we come back, we want to play for something. You know what I mean? So after this type of break, usually when you come back, especially with how fast we're going to be jumping into playing, I think guys are at risk for injury, also at risk of, being exposed to whatever, because, none of us have been around each other if so many teams are going to be in one spot. So, if we're going to do it, obviously as players, we want to play, but we want to play for something, especially if we were in position to play for that in the first place. So I feel like a play-in tournament would be perfect.
Here they are, J. Will and Jalen Rose with us here. Jalen, that was on your show. Really good interview, I thought. And I just wonder, after Dame Lillard said what he initially said, there were a lot of takes being thrown around. How did what he said on your show yesterday influence the way you think about his position here?
It totally made sense, and I appreciate him being a straight shooter and being honest. And like we clarified on this show, Greeny, it's not like what you're seeing with Major League Baseball. He wasn't talking about a conflict with money because NBA players already have taken a pay cut. So that's not the issue. The issue is if you're going to get teams, in particular those that were outside of the playoff race, and that's teams 16 and beyond, at least until 20, you have to incentivize those squads from ownership down to make them want to not only bring their teams, but to bring their top players like Dame Lillard to a bubble setting in Orlando, and you want them to feel like they have an opportunity to play for something great.
What do you think, Jay? Well, how do you think they should handle this thing here? If you were the commissioner, how would you handle it?
Well, I'm happy I'm not Adam Silver, to be frank with you. His job is a little bit arduous. But I would say, that's one side of the coin to look at it as it relates to Dame. And I respect Dame, and I get that if I were a player. I think also the opposite side of that, if you're the business of the NBA, the revenue that you've lost as a company has been pretty drastic. If that's you have responsibilities to media networks, you have brand sponsorship deals that you need to activate so you can capitalize on that. And I also think you're trying to extend the runway of engagement and increase the excitement of the game as much as possible before you even get to the playoff to help recoup that. And the one thing I will say, Dame is entitled to his opinion because Dame makes a lot of money per year. He can do that even with the salary reduction, but you have a lot of guys who don't make that type of money and a lot of guys who are coming into the league, and this is big for the league as in general, so they don't have to go back and potentially redo whatever the CBA could be next year due to incredible revenue loss. So it's on that side of the equation with the league, they're trying to extend that runway as long as possible.
Well, let me just make sure I understand what you're saying, though, Jay. Well, if what they decide to do ultimately, I don't know what they're going to do, but if they decide to bring back all of the teams to do some of the stuff you're talking about, including those who have no chance at making the playoffs, the Warriors, the Knicks, etc., would you want to play if you're one of those guys?
If that meant that I was going to have a future in this game, look, it's not an easy decision, Greeny, but there's a lot. There are going to be things with our job that I may feel uncomfortable doing that I may have to do because you need to have a job, right? So, like I said, certain guys can take stances on it due to the incredible amounts of money they make, but there is that next tier of guys that may feel like they will have to do that or they will want to do that in order to maintain the job. I mean, there are two sides to look at it.
I totally get that. Jalen, I know that I've actually named now the 20-team model the Jalen Rose model because you were the first person that I heard say it. But I heard Mark Cuban saying on TV the other day, like all of these teams have local cable deals. They want to put games on there. So if they wanted to bring back the Warriors and the Knicks and all these other teams, I don't mean to just single them out, but they jump to mind, teams that technically have nothing to play for, are you good with that?
That doesn't make sense, Greeny, and the answer to the question that you gave Jay is actually no. Jay Will, teams 21 through 30, they're not growing the game this season. Don't anticipate the Golden State Warriors putting their lottery team on a plane going from California to Florida under any circumstances. And we don't want to watch them play either. That's why I said 20 teams, because it engages more than just the 16 that were in the playoffs. You involve 4 more teams plus fan bases, and that becomes your incubator of 20 teams that now you can either use to do a play-in tournament or have all of those squads be playoff teams. This all is determined by how much time you have to start back up the season.
That's fine if you want to say 20 teams, if that's an arbitrary number that can get you to where you need to be. But I'm sorry, I would love to watch Stephen Curry play if Stephen Curry came back to play. I would love to watch Trae Young play. I can name a lot of players that may not have a playoff chance right out of the gate, that not having basketball for the past 2.5 months, that I would thoroughly enjoy watching play. This is a individual player-driven league and a fan-driven league, right? Fans love individual players. Now, I don't know if you're going to break Klay Thompson back. I'm not sure what Golden State would do, but there are a lot of individual players that are outside the playoff race that I would like to watch play, J. Rose, if I'm a fan of the game.
Jay Will, I'm going to talk about the examples that you use. Steph Curry will not be playing basketball this season. Steph Curry will not be playing.
He was coming back,
Jay
J. Rose, to play at the end of the season. He was coming back to play at the end of the season, J. Rose. He was coming back to play. They were going to play for a playoff seed.
Let me answer both of you guys. If you're the Golden State Warriors, you're not putting Steph Curry back out on the floor this year under any circumstances.
Wait, time
you're
out.
Firmly entrenched in lottery position. That's what it's going to be. Now, let me answer your question. Trae Young, I'm showing you how each scenario is different. Trae Young, if you're the Atlanta Hawks, you don't want him to be playing in this situation to protect your lottery situation. And lastly, a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, I saw his video. You think he want to get on an airplane after he lost his mama to coronavirus and go play against the Lakers or the Clippers in the first round of the playoffs?
Jalen, let me play
I think that's subjective. I can't speak for what Karl Anthony Towns would want to do, nor can I speak for Stephen Curry. And I think you're being subjective by doing that. Their opinion will be their opinion on how they handle the issue. All I'm saying is Stephen Curry and Golden State, those guys were same thing. They were trying to get a potential lottery pick, but Stephen Curry was coming back to play.